The apartment was perfect. That was the first thing that unsettled Maya. Not the crooked hallway, not the smell of old wood, and something sweeter beneath it, but the price. $700 a month in a city where a closet rented for twice that. The landlord, a thin man named Voss, who never seemed to blink quite enough, slid the key across the table and said only one thing before he left. "Don't open the door at the end of the hall after midnight." Maya laughed. She actually laughed. She thought it was a quirky old man being theatrical. She signed the lease. The first 2 weeks were blissful. The apartment was warm. The walls held the kind of silence that city people pay fortunes for. She slept better than she had in years. She stopped thinking about the door, a narrow thing, painted the same flat white as everything else, almost entirely. Then came the 14th night. She woke at 12:17 to the sound of breathing, not her own. Slow, measured, intimate, as though someone was standing close enough to touch her, exhaling against the dark. She lay rigid for a long time, listening. The breathing stopped. She told herself it was the vents. She told herself a lot of things, but she started paying attention to the door. During the day, it was unremarkable, slightly warped at the bottom, a keyhole she had no key for. She pressed her ear against it once on a Wednesday afternoon and heard nothing. Not silence, but nothing. The way you can tell the difference between a room with no sound and a room with no air. It made her pull back instinctively, the way you pull your hand from something hot before your brain has finished forming the thought. She started setting an alarm for 11:55. She told herself it was to make sure she stayed up past midnight occasionally, to feel normal, human, not someone governed by some eccentric old man's rules. But the truth she wouldn't say out loud, was simpler. She wanted to know if anything changed at midnight. It did. The first time she watched, nothing moved, but the smell changed. That sweetness she could never identify. It sharpened just after the hour, rolling down the hallway like something warm being exhaled. She stood 6 feet from the door, with every light in the apartment blazing, and her heart slamming so hard she could feel it in her teeth. And then, slowly, the door leaned toward her, not opening, not swinging, leaning, as though something on the other side had pressed its weight against it. Curious, patient, the wood bowed outward by barely an inch. She heard the soft groan of the frame taking pressure. She turned and walked to her bedroom, closed the door, and did not sleep until dawn. She called Voss. He answered on the first ring, which seemed wrong for 7 in the morning. "I saw the door move," she said. A long pause. The kind of pause that isn't empty, that's full of something being carefully chosen not to say. "How long did you watch it?" he asked. "A few minutes. Then you're fine." Another pause. "Don't watch longer than that. It learns your face." The line went dead. She should have left. The rational, sensible, self-preserving thing was to pack a bag and go. She knew that. She even packed the bag. It sat by the front door for 3 days while she didn't leave, while she went to work and came home and heated soup and acted as though she lived in a normal apartment, in a normal building where the landlord talked like a normal human being. But there is something about being told not to do a thing that embeds it in you, like a hook. The question stopped being, "Should I open it?" and became something worse. What is already in there, and does it know my name? On the 21st night, she opened the door. She opened it at 12:04, with a flathead screwdriver worked into the old lock, and she pushed it inward, on a darkness so total it seemed structural. Not an absence of light, but a presence of dark. The way black in a painting isn't the canvas showing through, but pigment deliberately laid. The smell hit her first, sweet and metallic, and unmistakably biological. Warm, like skin. Then her eyes adjusted. The room was small, a single window, bricked over, and in the center of the floor, a wooden chair, and in the chair, herself, sitting perfectly still, eyes open, watching the door. The figure wearing her face tilted its head a fraction of an inch, the way she tilted her head when something confused her, when something needed solving, and then it smiled. Her smile, the exact one, except held 2 seconds too long. It said in her voice, in a tone so gentle it was obscene, "You watched for too long." The apartment is listed again, $700 a month. The new tenant moves in on Friday. She is a young woman who works in finance, who laughs easily, who thought the price was too good to be true, and signed the lease anyway. The landlord told her the same thing he tells everyone. In the room at the end of the hall, behind the flat white door, something sits in a wooden chair and waits in the dark, patient as it has always been, wearing a new face now, learning a new smile. And in a city far from here, Maya wakes each night at 12:17 to the sound of breathing that isn't hers, and she lies rigid in the dark, and she tells herself it is only the vents. She's learning to believe it. She doesn't have much time left to learn.